Soccer under construction here on Friday's edition of Morning Kick Around. A couple different updates, but we will start in Toledo, Ohio, where a group, not Toledo Villa FC from USL 2, but a new group attempting to get into USL 1 is asking the state for some funds for a brand new soccer-specific stadium.
Yeah, we obviously found this mention of some group in Toledo asking for money to build a stadium, and it said soccer, and we were like, whoa, the alarm started ringing, and we were like, do we get to clang the clanger? Are we in a clang the clanger situation? And it turns out via a couple of listeners sent us the article here that outlines exactly what is going down. This is from the Toledo Blade. So over at toledoblade.com, there is an article, it's actually an opinion piece by David Briggs outlining what's going on here. So you can see, while still in the blueprint stage, the application lays out a vision, a stadium ready for the 2028-29 season, hosting 142 annual events, mostly soccer games. This is set for the Vistula Historic District, dormant land off of Summit Street next to the Toledo Pickle Company. God, that's so Toledo. Directly across the river from Glass City Metropark. Now, I've looked at the map. I didn't bring it up for the show today, but I looked at that. This is right on the river. Like, this is right there, smack dab on the river in Toledo. And I think this would obviously be an incredible place to build a little soccer stadium. They're talking about something like 7,500 seats. You can see it there. The guy behind this is Randy Ustra, and he is proposing the $83 million stadium there in Toledo. There is a little bit of a detail, too. You have to be able to pay for half of the stadium. It's written here by David Briggs. To qualify for the state grant, the main tenant has to cover at least 50% of the costs. Ustra said a local ownership group, about 10 strong, is growing. It will have to be a true public-private partnership, different from, and he mentioned some other model for, I guess, Toledo Mud Hens and some other project in Toledo. You can see here that David brings up Pro-Rel. So are we talking about Toledo just being a good place for a soccer team, and some local business leaders in Toledo thought, we'll throw some money in a pot. If we can get this money from the state to kind of cover half our construction costs, we can put a soccer team? Or is this, really kind of legitimately a response to promotion and relegation as proposed by USL?
That's a good question to ask, really. It's hard to say what the motivations of people in the C-suite are. Are they that tapped in to be like, oh, Pro-Rel? That's an opportunity to get in on the ground floor and become a part of something else? Or is it, I want to access some public funds? There's this pot of money in Ohio that where sports teams, they're viewing it as a cultural or community asset, and they have this big pot of money, and people and groups can apply for it. Is it just that? Is it a business interest? We're like, hey, there's this pot of money, I might as well apply for it. And then that gives me a new business venture with millions of dollars to help me along the way.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and what everybody says, I mean, yeah. And again, like, if that money is there and the state of Ohio has earmarked different things like this, why not? Why not Toledo? Why not a soccer stadium? Why not pro soccer in Toledo? Now, Homeless Shoe is pointing out that this would be a new pro side pushing out an amateur side, which is established there in Toledo, which is Toledo Villa. It was mentioned in Briggs' story that this is not connected to Toledo Villa. So this is completely separate from what you talked about, the team that you went and saw play Oakland County in Toledo, right next to the Toledo University of Toledo
Glass Bowl
football stadium. Glass Bowl, yeah. So there is something of a sadness in that, right? But again, we can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And if we get a pro team in Toledo, like, as much as that would suck for Toledo Villa if they kind of get pushed out of the market, I think if you look at a big picture situation, it's hard to argue that it wouldn't be cool to have a team in Toledo, which is how far from Detroit, how far from Fort Wayne, right? Like, this is kind of creating that regional element for teams in that area. Now, obviously, Detroit City is a championship team right now, and Toledo would be a League One team as currently planned. But if Pro-Rel happens, and if they end up in the same division, we get a little rivalry there. Obviously, again, Fort Wayne's going to be a USL League One team. So they would walk into a rivalry with Toledo if Toledo gets off the ground. And I don't know anything about David Ustra or Randy Ustra. I don't know about anything about the other people involved in this, and maybe we can reach out to find out if there's anybody who wants to talk about it. But again, this is just again interesting to see that continued explosion of interest around the country in places, minor league towns. Not talking down Toledo, that's what it is. Minor league towns interested in pro soccer.
Moving now to another soccer stadium update. We're going to the south, the deep south of Florida, Homestead, Florida. Miami FC is in the mix of a brand new huge development in Homestead community south of the city of Miami. There is the rendering that we were talking about earlier, and this location in Homestead, Florida is not only supposed to include a 10,000 stadium for Miami FC, who competes in the USL Championship. They're going to make a training academy, youth boarding schools, a sports-themed hotel, sports medicine and surgery center, and new and upgraded fields for the Homestead Regional Park.
Yeah, whether or not they'll be continue to be called the Miami FC playing in Homestead, I don't know. I don't think we've gotten clarity on that. This is the next step. Obviously, you see the pretty rendering right there on the water. So it looks amazing from this shot that we've got. Two open ends, or two uncovered ends, rather. Not, I think one end might be without seats. I can't tell. The scoreboard end might be without seats. It is pretty standard. I'm not saying it's bad looking, but it's pretty standard for what a small soccer stadium looks like in America, or at least as planned these days. It's hard to imagine it's going to look exactly like this. And I don't know where we're looking here because I'm not a Miami guy, or a South Florida guy, so I don't have the geography of this.
It's either the south or the east here.
Yeah. Is there a real history, or a real future, rather? There's a history, but is there a real future for Miami FC in Homestead? Because as being pointed out, they don't draw. They don't draw there in Miami. And that this would have to be a complete reset of the interest levels. And maybe, again, that's why you go down to Homestead. And maybe you're tapping into something. This obviously is also it's a real estate play in the sports space, if I can say that without sounding like a douche, which I don't think I can. I think Manu Ginobili is involved.
Oh,
Based on what I read, Rob. So this is one of those things that like smacks of, sports people getting together to invest in sports projects that are mainly about maximizing the youth soccer and sports area, right, of the industry. And it doesn't mean it's bad, and it doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile for professional soccer, right? Because if this gives Miami FC a new home, and if they get a second lease on life, and although I do wonder about them moving and how that changes their character, I guess that's okay, right? I guess.
it's at cognitive dissonance that we deal with in a lot of different areas of our lives right now. But thinking of a brand new development like this, a 10,000 person stadium for the lowest drawing attendance team in their division, just seems kind of wild. Like, what does 1 + 1 equal here? But
Yeah.
I mean, is there such a huge population and an interest from people who want to play soccer, get into soccer, but don't want to go into Miami to the new Inter Miami Stadium? Is that the play here? But we shall see. And then also Thomas saying like that thing's going to get sucked up by the ocean in 10 years.
Well, I mean, that is interesting that they would build it like this when we all hear all the time how Miami is going to be underwater. I mean, I certainly hope that isn't the case. Man, yeah, there are lots of open questions here, and we'll have to come back around and see if they actually get this project underway.